So, the first 4 months of 2025 are done and dusted, and May is just chugging along, right? Now, with that being said, I thought I'd share with you the 10 games in no particular order that have been released for the first 4 months that I thought really started the year off with a bang. Let's get into it. Now, to start things off, I'm bringing you Monster Hunter Wilds. It's an action RPG game developed by Capcom, released on February 28th for the PC, PS5, and Xbox. Now, Wilds is the 6th entry in the main Monster Hunter series, and this one has us exploring a new and far more expansive part of the world, the Hidden Lands. Sounds like my bathroom after drinking coffee on an empty stomach. So, players take control of a hunter, and it's your job to go out and hunt down really badass monsters. It's Monster Hunter, guys, and the Wilds is much of the same of what you've come to love about the series. Some additions and changes though. You now get a companion called a Secret, which looks like a raptor that allows you to bound between rocks, glide and whatnot, so makes movement far more dynamic when traversing the world. The hunting locations are significantly larger here compared to previous titles, and players can start a hunting quest directly from the field and without any loading times. So that's a nice change. Another change is that this time the lands go through these 3 distinct seasonal climate changes during and between hunts. Each state has a significant impact on how you approach the hunt, as well as the types of monsters you encounter when you're out there in the wild. Now, Capcom has said that the story here is more immersive. It's one of the most immersive stories of the series, but let's not kid ourselves. Playing Monster Hunter for the story is like going to McDonald's for coffee. It's not bad, but it's not what you're there for, right? We've come for the combat, and I'm happy to report that in this game it's as good as ever. The mechanics are smooth and tight with cool combos and move sets, and let's be honest, nothing feels better than taking on a big badass monster. You get cool armor sets and so many unique weapons to choose from. The game is just pure old school action fun. Monster Hunter Wild, guys, check it out. So up next we have Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, released in March 20th for the Switch, and is a remaster of developer Monolith Soft's 2015 hit, which released for the Wii U. Now, unlike the other Chronicles games, which has the player controlling a playable main protagonist, here you start off with customizing your own character. And the story starts off with you and what remains of humanity trying to escape Earth after it's been destroyed by aliens. So the humans construct space arcs and flee, hoping for the best. Now, these aliens, if nothing else, are persistent because after 2 years, they're still chasing you down to finish off what they started. Talk about obnoxious, makes me wonder, what did the humans do to piss these dudes off so much? And this leads to the Ark crashing into the mysterious world of Meier, and your ship, the White Whale, is separated from the Lifehold, which is the device that contains the majority of what remains of humanity. And your character joins this group you encounter on Meier called Blade, and no, I'm not talking about Wesley Snipes. Blade is a group that you join, and then you set off on a journey across Meier in search of the Lifehold. And your party is made up of you and 3 AI-controlled companions. Each character has the option of melee, range, as well as a selection of abilities or arts, and you get to unlock new arts with XP as you go along the game. And later in the game, you gain access to these badass-looking mechs or skells, and the mechanics when operating the skells are same as with the characters. They help with traversing the world of Meier, allowing you to access areas that were unreachable earlier in the game. And can I just say that for a 10-year-old game, the world of Meier is just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And it's a real testament to what the folks at Monolith Soft has done here. The combat is fast and fun with the auto attacks and real-time management of attack and defense moves for your characters, all of which are the hallmark of the Xenoblade series. The combat has been streamlined here for this remaster, as well as the quest guidance, which is much improved, and as an added bonus, the party members can now be changed at any time when not in battle. So whether you've played the original or not, I recommend grabbing this one. Monolith Soft has really polished up the definitive edition here. So next on the list we have Blueprints, which released on April 10th for the PS5, Xbox, and PC, and was solo developed over 8 years by Tondo Ross. Players assume the role of Simon P. Jones, who was willed the Mount Holly estate mansion from his recently deceased uncle, Herbert S. Clair. Talk about good fortune. The only thing my uncle would will me is his old members only jacket. With that being said, all things are not as blessed as they seem. Like every will, you gotta read the fine print, because good old Uncle Herbert here had a little catch to you actually gaining possession of the mansion, and that's reaching the secret 46th room before the day is end, or else you gotta start all over again the next day. Dude clearly watched Groundhog Day one too many times. And that's the objective of the game, reaching the 46th room. The mansion is represented by a grid of 45 room tiles, 9 rows by 5, and each time you open the door to a new room, you're prompted to draft that room by choosing one of the 3 randomly selected floor plans to place in the adjacent space. The catch is that the doors and walls of the new room must align with the rooms you've already placed. It seems like your uncle didn't actually like you after all, because this is a practical joke from hell. And each time you travel from one room to another, it costs you 1 step, and you only start with 50 steps a day. It takes counting steps to a whole nother level here, and you can replenish your steps by eating food or visiting bedrooms, but once you burn through all those steps, well, that's it. You're forced to leave for the night and start over the next day. You know what, on second thought, I think I'd just take the jacket. But in all seriousness, the game is actually very engaging, especially for puzzle lovers or deep thinkers who prefer a bit of a slower burn. I also love the graphical style here. I found it similar to The Wolf Among Us with the cell shading and the color palette. Blueprints, check it out. Oh, and bonus tip, be sure to take notes during your playthrough, because you're gonna need it. Trust me. Next game we're looking at is Split Faction. It's an action-adventure game developed by Hazelight Studios, released March 6th for the PC, PS5, and Xbox. And this game follows authors Mio Hudson and Zoe Foster, who, after being connected to a machine designed to steal creative ideas, have been imprisoned in a world made up entirely of their stories. I mean, it could be worse. It could be a world made up of Stephen King stories. Talk about nightmare fuel, right? And very much like Hazelight's other hit game, It Takes Two, Split Faction is meant to be played in split screen co-op, either local or online. Split Faction, split screen, it's a bit on the nose there, don't you think, Hazelight? Now, all jokes aside, the game is really fun and players must work together to escape and overcome the challenges of the world, with how Mio's sci-fi story interweaves with Zoe's more traditional fantasy style. It's a third-person platformer with occasional combat, although that's not the focal point, and each stage has a unique one-off gameplay mechanic that would play up the sci-fi or fantasy theme. And Mio and Zoe have different abilities each level, and it's up to you and your partner to figure out how to use those abilities and collaborate to progress through the story. And if you love co-op story-based games, or if you loved It Takes Two, you're gonna want to get this. The graphics are fun, and the contrast between sci-fi and fantasy is really something to behold. Check it out. Now, the 5th game in our list of 10 is Assassin's Creed Shadows, developed by Ubisoft Quebec and released March 20th for PC, PS5, and Xbox. And this is the 14th installment of the AC series, because when you run out of fresh new ideas, you can always just flog a series to death like sending a dead horse to the glue factory. This Assassin's Creed game takes place in 16th century feudal Japan, and who doesn't love to visit feudal Japan, right? And there are 2 main protagonists here, Naoe the shinobi and Yasuke the samurai, the remake of the hit single Ebony and Ivory, just with less harmonizing and more killing. And each protagonist has a vastly different playstyle in it, almost like 2 separate games in one, with Yasuke being very action combat based and Naoe who's far more adept to the shadows and stealth. It's open world like the other installments, and Shadows World is said to compare in size to Origins. The game also has a season system of fall, winter, spring, and summer, and the players has to take into consideration each season and how it impacts play, particularly winter, with shallow bodies of water freezing over, making the surfaces slippery. There's also the addition of allowing players to go full prone, as well as a grappling hook to help with the scaling of the buildings. And it's just really helpful, and it helps with making traversal in the world of Shadows feel more fun and intuitive. The story is much more the same of what we've come to expect from Assassin's Creed, a fictional assassin who's lived during a real time period with real historical figures, a special mention to the Animus system, which is back, and I don't know why, because it's pretty much pointless and nothing more than a distraction in my opinion. Now, the Yasuke character is based on a real life African samurai who existed during that time period, and I'm not going to debate with the historical accuracy or the creative liberties Ubisoft took by introducing him here, I just want you to know that he is in fact a real person, unlike all the other protagonists from the games. In either way, Shadows is fun and engaging, it's albeit a bit samey, the stealth is really refined, and the combat feels visceral. If you love the series, you're probably going to want to add this one to your collection. Next we have the Talos Principle Reawakened, a remaster of Crow Team's 2014 critically acclaimed puzzle game. The game released on PS5, PC, and Xbox on April 10th. Now the game starts with you playing as a robot who awakens in the Greek-inspired mythological garden. The robot appears to have a human-like consciousness, and I don't know, it kind of looks like the robot character from I, Robot. Almost had me wondering if Will Smith was going to appear at any moment in the game and just give your character a ringing slap. So you can play the game in either first or third person perspective, and you go out and explore the garden and many of the different environments, and the game includes over 120 puzzles. The main objective here is to collect these sigils by going into the enclosed areas and solving the obstacles within, which include drones that will detonate or turrets which will activate if you get too close. And if they kill you, you have to start that particular puzzle over from the beginning. As you collect the sigils and complete the puzzles, more become available to you, and later in the game you gain access to a device that can create a time recording of your actions, and then you can interact with your record itself to complete the other objectives. So Voyeurism 2.0. The game really focuses on themes of AI, human extinction, and how they are intertwined, and your job is to solve the puzzles and collect the sigils to unlock the mysteries of the garden, all culminating into a final battle where you take on Will Smith's avatar, who's really pissed at all the lowbrow jokes about his wife littered throughout the game. Now that's a joke, and this game has nothing to do with Will Smith. I just can't help but see the I, Robot character and the main protagonist here. In all seriousness, the game is fun, and if you like puzzle games like Portal or other types of games like that, this is one remaster you're probably going to want to play. Now here's a big hit sequel that came out, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, an action RPG developed by Warhorse Studios, which released February 4th for the PS5, PC, and Xbox. And much like the original, Deliverance 2 is an open-world, first-person game where players take control of the main protagonist, Henry of Skalitz, the charismatic man of arms who just can't catch a break, which makes sense considering he's living as a peasant during 15th century Europe. The game is twice as large as the first, with 2 larger and freely explorable areas. The missions and objectives in the game are managed in different ways, with the NPCs and different communities you encounter reacting differently towards you depending on your in-game choices throughout. The 3 main skills of focus in the game are oration, charisma, and intimidation. So Henry's pretty much just a chill dude who goes around trying to gain favor and influence of the common folk. The tale takes place immediately after the events of the first game in 1403 and is set in the Kingdom of Bohemia during the real-life historical event when the Holy Roman Emperor Sigmund of Luxembourg goes on a crusade and invades Bohemia, and Henry leads his band of merrymen in a resistance against the invasion on behalf of the imprisoned Bohemian king Wenceslaus. Sorry if I'm butchering that name, but yeah. And then there's a little matter of the personal revenge story arc where Henry is also seeking revenge against Sigmund's emissaries who killed Henry's mother and stepdad. The combat system in the game has a steep learning curve, I will say that, but once you master it, it feels very rewarding. The graphics are gorgeous and the Bohemian countryside is vast and very fun to explore. The combat is hard but satisfying and in the first person perspective, and the story is rich and engaging as you follow Henry on his adventure. It's literally Skyrim, just minus the dragons and the magic and the mystical monsters popping up everywhere. In all seriousness though, Deliverance 2 easily stands on its own merit, and it's a classic that has built on all of the mechanisms that made the first a hit, and it's really polished them up. This is definitely a game that will be a benchmark of all first-person action games that will be measured against it for years to come. It's a must-have add to your collection. Next game we have on my list is Sid Meier's Civilization 7, a turn-based strategy game developed by Firaxis and released on February 11th for the Switch, PC, Xbox, and PS5. And like every other Civ game, players select from a historical faction and leader and then oversee the growth of your civilization from its prehistoric beginnings all the way through to becoming an advanced society. And as you advance your civilization, your military advances from spearmen and archers to full-on Apache helicopters and nuclear submarines. The key gameplay loop though here for me is something that really features heavily in the Civ games, and it's this mad rush to discovering the natural resources. Like here we have rubies or sugar and the technologies needed to harvest said resources. As always, there's multiple victory conditions available to the player, including military, scientific, cultural, and economic, and I always opt for military because I just want to dominate the world. And all throughout you're racing against the other factions who are also trying to beat you to the finish line. And there's 21 leaders to choose from this time, and several of the leaders have this dual persona, so it's kinda like 26, but not really. And my favorite characters are Ben Franklin, Napoleon, and Xerxes of Persia. Although I do wish they gave us the Xerxes from the 300 movie, you know, the one with the pierced nipples and body glitter. And then I'd like how they would have it where they would have every time you interact with another leader, there's a cutscene of you standing behind them with your hands rested on their shoulders and just whispering in their ear ever so gently. I'd like that. And this time you can select leaders and civilizations independently, so if you want Napoleon leading the Roman Empire, so be it. Now, that's not really my thing, I'm much more of a traditionalist, but that is one of the changes we see. Another is the actual criteria that constitutes a leader. So now we get philosophers or religious figures and scientists who obviously were not heads of state in their time. Now Firaxis has really streamlined the game here, trying to make it more accessible and a bit more easy to play for the casual fans. And it doesn't feel as in-depth as the older iterations, and I do miss a bit of the complexity, but I also understand the reasons for trying to bring your game to a broader audience. All in all, the game feels familiar and what we've come to expect from a Civ game, and if you like turn-based games that are very loosely based on history and it's a heavy emphasis on loose, this is your game, and you'll be hard-pressed to find another game in the market that can give you as polished an experience as Civ 7. Now this next game is one that kinda snuck up on us here. It's Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. It's a remaster of the 2006 hit Bethesda action RPG open world game, and it dropped April 22nd for the PC, Xbox, and PS5. The core gameplay mechanics are unchanged here from the original, including the real-time combat and the skill-based progression system and various quest lines linking the factions you encounter throughout your journey. The game is set in the province of Cyrodiil, which is south of Skyrim, for all you folks out there who's played each of the last 13 versions of that game. The game starts with you creating an avatar and you find yourself in a prison cell for who knows what reason, and then your cell gets visited by the Emperor himself, Uriel Septim. After sharing a touching moment of "I've seen you in my dreams" with the Emperor, it's like, hold on bro, you know, we just met. Can we at least go for a coffee? So you escape the prison and then you set off on an adventure where you have to locate the now slain Emperor's bastard son, where you team up to fight off the forces of the Daedric realm of Oblivion. So Game of Thrones minus the incest and the eunuch slave army. The open world is vast and filled with many secret dungeons, caves, castles, and you name it. And you just go and explore and get lost for hours. And this is a game where 1 minute you're on a main quest and the next you sink an hour or so into exploring some random dungeon you discovered off the beaten path. The remaster has a full graphical overhaul using the much beloved Unreal 5 engine, and just ignore the graphical oddities and bugs, and that's pretty much the part of Bethesda's charm. Other features that have improved, like environmental effects and ambient sound, and we also get Knights of the Nine and Shivering Isles, which were expansion packs for the original game, so you're really getting your bang for your buck here. And what can I say, it's Oblivion. You know it, and you probably love it, and it's definitely worth another playthrough. I mean, it's the least you can do after having Skyrim set on repeat for like, 3 console generations? Time to give Oblivion some love, guys. And then I saved the best for last, as you do. Clair Obscur. Expedition 33, a turn-based RPG game from developer Sandfall Interactive, a dark fantasy adventure game. The game starts with a group of volunteers of Expedition 33 who set out to destroy the Paintress, a being that looks like the evil spirit from the Poltergeist who is causing the yearly gommage, which is a system of her writing a number on a monolith in the middle of the city, and at the end of the year, everyone at or over that age dies. So pretty much the absolute worst New Year's Eve party ever. The worst part is that every year the number counts down, and the only way to prevent your inevitable death is to set off on an expedition to defeat the Paintress. So for all of you 33-year-olds out there, get stepping, because time is obviously not your friend in this twisted world. So you take your party of up to 6 playable characters, explore areas, and engage in combat. Very much inspired by the traditional JRPGs, with the characters having 5 core attributes of vitality, might, agility, defense, and luck. And each character has something to bring to the party here, with different skill sets and abilities, unique weapons, and mechanics. Also included in the mechanics are the quick time events during combat, which are used to improve the effects of the attack. And the combat is dynamic, allowing players to react in real time to enemy attacks with dodge, parry, or even jump over the attack altogether and avoid damage. So turn-based with some real-time mechanics, and I like it. The graphical art style here really reminds me of A Plague's Tale. It must be a French thing, because boy do they make beautiful games. This game is just a joy to look at, and I love the stylized numbers and the writing. It really leans into the whole Belle Epique time period. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I love the aesthetic. The levels are linear in design, but there are branching paths to explore for hidden resources, side quests, and whatnot. It's very Final Fantasy-esque, and each level has expedition flags where you can heal your characters, restock items, and allocate the skill points. And just keep in mind that when you do choose to rest at a flag point, all the enemies in that level respawn. So there's so many mechanics and layers embedded in the gameplay here, it's just too many to mention. And let's just say that if you love complex RPG mechanics and engaging gameplay, you're gonna enjoy your time here. It's like a fat dude at Applebee's on their all-you-can-eat wings night. All in all, this game was an instant hit when it was released. I mean, it's gonna be a classic for years to come, guys. And if you haven't played it yet, do yourself a favor and pick it up. It's a real blast, especially for the old school RPG folks out there like me. And there you have it, guys. My personal list of the top 10 must-play games that have been released between January to April, and it's not in any particular order or based on any rating system. It's just the ones that I thought stood out thus far. And if there's any games you think I missed, share them in the comments below. And thanks for stopping by, and let's get gaming.